So Airbnb just put out their winter release 2022. I'm pretty excited, so let's take a look. Right as I log in, I see that there are 10 major upgrades for hosts. So the first thing I see is an opportunity to set ground rules for guests. It says there's a new system that requires guests to respect your home and follow house rules. Airbnb already has house rules, so I'm curious how this is changing. These expectations are not new, but the system of enforcement is. If they break house rules, they get a warning for the first time. And then if the issues persist, they could be suspended or removed from Airbnb. So I think, yeah, that is new. Previously, your course of action as a host, if someone breaks house rules, is you could leave them a bad review. You could go through the resolution center and ask for money for the damages. But really, there isn't a whole lot of long-term, meaningful, consequential things you can do. So that's fantastic. I think that actually matches their higher standards that they're asking of hosts, that you can't cancel on people just nilly-willy. I think the quality control is going both ways for hosts and guests, and I'm happy to see that in the community and on the platform. So enforcing house rules, they've always been there, but with ground rules you have new enforceable items including pets, events, smoking, vaping, and e-cigarettes. That's new. Quiet hours, check-in and check-out times, maximum number of guests, and commercial photography and filming. That's very interesting. We actually had a person from Vice asking to use our house as a filming spot, and I honestly hadn't considered that before, but as I was looking these things up, there are some areas like LA that have more like film students come through, and there are different liabilities with the filming process. In my mind, I'm like, well, don't they just do this, like put a camera up? But no, like there's bigger equipment, there's lights, and as they move heavy equipment around, there's bigger risk of damage, or a different kind of risk for damage, I should say. And so typically places that list properties that host, I don't know if host is the right word, photography or commercial filming, they charge per hour and they're listed on places like Peerspace, and the cost is higher. It's more than what we charge for a house. Like in my head, I was like, well, they're not using the bed, they're not staying the night, wouldn't that be less? But no, I think because of the liabilities, it's higher. But anyway, so that's cool to see that this is now a rule you can set. We ended up, by the way, letting those guests stay, and it was fine. They broke one pool cue and they were really candid about that, and we had absolutely no issues with them. So I don't want to scare anyone off regarding hosting people who do photography or filming. And the house rules are now going to be featured more prominently in 4 places: on the listing page, on the confirmation screen as they book, and in the pack your bags email and arrival guide. Then actually I can remove from my template the house rules. Currently I have house rules listed as my check-in message towards the end. Like for your reference, here's a copy of my house rules. So I can actually remove that going forward. Now, reinforcing cleanliness and communication. With ground rules, the same process of enforcement applies to cleanliness and communication. You can report cleanliness and communication issues in the review process. I wonder what that looks like. I will have to come back and show you what it looks like when I actually do a review. And then if you write additional reasonable house rules for checkout requests, the guests will be made aware of these rules before they book a stay. So actually, let's go and see if I were to update house rules, what that looks like. So policies and rules. Okay, yeah, smoking, vaping, e-cigarettes. Oh, and then commercial filming and photography. So I just selected that. I think I would still communicate with them. Quiet hours, I can now set that. Start time is 10 p.m. And then check-in window, checkout time, number of guests. Yep. I wish for the smoking, they specified inside the house and around the house, like 2 checkboxes. One of the issues I've had is I say no smoking, but then what do I do if a person is smoking outside on the driveway? I wish they did that this time, but you know what? This is still an improvement. None of the other platforms do this, so I can't complain about that. Now it says guests are expected to follow your rules and can be removed from Airbnb if they cause issues. Honestly, I don't need to change any of the house rules listed here. It's more of an elaboration. It's not additional. Now I'm going to go to hospitable. One of the messages that I have going out to guests is 2-3 days before check-in check-in instructions, the door code and whatnot. And at the end of that message, I attached a reference to the house rules. And so I think I can remove that now because it makes for a really long message. And I've never liked it, but I also felt uncomfortable not reminding people. And I don't want anyone to show up and be like, hey, you didn't tell me. Because I get it, like you read house rules like 5 months before booking. You're not going to remember that. So I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but now that Airbnb reminds them, I am going to remove it. Get rid of that. It automatically saves. All of my messages will now be updated. Cool. So that's the ground rules article. Now let's take a look at a simpler way to dispute retaliatory reviews. This is so exciting. Request removal of a retaliatory review no matter how long ago it was posted. Ooh. So hosts have told us they want to know a guest track record on Airbnb before accepting a booking request, and they feel concerned about the possibility of retaliatory reviews. So we're upgrading the review system to enable you to learn about other host review guests and dispute any retaliatory reviews. So you can leave more detail. For example, you will know how other hosts rated them on cleanliness, communication, following house rules. So is it like a breakdown of where they're getting 5 stars versus 4 versus 3? Do we not see that currently? I guess not, huh? I've never looked into it. The same process applies to the reviews guests leave for you. They will still choose 1 through 5. And now they can also choose a star rating, specify what went well or could have gone better. And choose 5-star and squeaky clean bathroom. Oh, I wonder if this is like a bunch of different buttons. I'm curious how this looks. The star ratings and feedback in specific categories don't affect superhost status, which is still determined by overall star rating. What I am curious about is whether the individual's subcategory stars affect your property overall stars. You know, like currently you get your total number of stars on a listing is based on just the overall. So if you consistently get 5 stars on those, even though like sometimes you get a 4 for say, I don't know, value, then your total is still 5. And none of the subcategories count. Now I wonder if this changes anything. I don't understand. And also for guests, do their cleanliness, do all the subcategories count towards their overall star rating? This is not clear. Stronger protection against retaliatory reviews. You can request removal of any retaliatory review no matter how long ago it was posted. You'll be able to flag reviews from guests who commit a serious policy violation, like damaging property or overstaying or violate house rules. So if they smoke in your house and then you submit a reimbursement, and then in response, they leave an angry review, and now you can dispute this. Previously, they will only remove reviews that are irrelevant information, like personal attacks, or they're inaccurate. And sometimes it's kind of hard to prove. Nothing is really perfect, so I'm sure someone can always find a nitpick on something and justify their review. Additionally, you also get those like, they give you 4 stars, and then the comment says this was a perfect stay. Like that was never disputable in the past because they didn't really say anything that's up for dispute. It's just that their star rating doesn't entirely match what they said. I think that still wouldn't be up for review in this system, but it seems like they're moving towards allowing reviews that follow a reservation where a guest broke some house rules, something that could potentially lead to a retaliatory review. Now they're a little bit more open to re-reviewing those. So I like that. And then in early 2023, we'll introduce a chatbot to make it easier to dispute a review without having to contact community support. Their chatbot system is already pretty good. I don't know if any of you use Verbo, but I had to call them once about a bank change. Like there was no chat function, first of all. So I had to call someone and I was on hold for at least 20 minutes. And then at the end of that, they hung up on me. So Airbnb chat has always been my preferred way of troubleshooting anything. And honestly, I haven't had any issues even with their chat function. So whatever chatbot upgrade they want to do, that's fine by me. All right. And then the third thing I'm reading is the new and improved air cover for host. always included, always free, only on Airbnb. That is true. I am actually just reviewing this for booking.com, but booking.com does not have anything like this. When I look it up on their articles, it just says, make sure you have your own insurance. Good luck. Which is not reassuring at all. And they allow you to charge a security deposit, but they require this to be in cash. Like I need to take the money in cash and return the security deposit in cash, which I can't do. Like I'm not physically there to do it. I'm not checking people in person. So essentially there is no security deposit. Fingers crossed that this booking around Thanksgiving comes out fine. But if anything happens, honestly, I guess I would just have to claim insurance, which sucks. I'm done with booking.com. Their interface is also bad. So I'm not sure what the purpose is anymore. And then Vrbo, the way they handle this is I have a $79 charge that guests opt into for like damage protection insurance. So they pay $79 up front, and I'm sure that's maybe a deterrent to some guest booking, but I need it. There's no other protection. And that covers through a third-party insurance place up to $3,000 of damages, which compared to say Airbnb, they're increasing the coverage to $3 million. And it's free to be part of that. There's like no comparison. Guest identity verification is now required, and it looks like they're expanding to more countries and regions, which is very nice. I remember when we first started hosting the tiny house, we had guests who didn't have identity verified, and we personally made it a rule for that to happen, and we wouldn't accept any reservations for anyone who didn't have their IDs uploaded to Airbnb. And some guests would complain, but every time I would decline a request for that reason, I put in the note box and told Airbnb, please make this required. Like, why is this ever not required? So based on my feedback, no, just kidding. I'm sure there are other people who said the same thing. So I'm really glad to see they're running background checks on all guests, and they are requiring identity verification for everyone. And then they have some reservation screening technology, proprietary, fancy. It helps reduce the chance of disruptive parties and property damage. This actually came into play one time. There was a person who was trying to book our beach house for a weekend for one day for 12 people, and Airbnb flagged it as a potential party based on their algorithm. At first I was like, oh, can we override it? Can this person book? But the more interaction I had with this person, it actually seems like they were correct. Like they were indeed kind of looking to find a place to host a party. And the things that flagged it was the large party size, the big house, and last minute booking. So I don't know what else go into play for that specific trigger, but it was accurate for the one time I saw it. I'm kind of glad to see them pushing this forward even further. It says, our screening technology evaluates about 100 factors of a reservation and blocks certain bookings to help reduce the chance of disruptive parties and property damage. We plan to expand this to all reservations worldwide by early 2023. Excellent. More damage protection. We've already talked about 3 million air cover, which is tripled. And now they protect a wider range of fine art and jewelry and collectibles, which is really cool. I do like to spend money on art. Some of them are kind of pricey. Auto and boat protection that you park and store at your property. That's pretty cool, especially if you're hosting just one room and you have your own car, your own other stuff there. If they can cover that, that's excellent. The new protections are in addition to previous features that are already on AirCover with Host. It says they have a simpler reimbursement process. You told us the reimbursement process was too complicated. Was it though? I thought it was fine. I didn't really think anything of it. The one time, well, I've only used it once, knock on wood. The one time I did it, I just submitted the request. I submitted the item that was broken. I submitted the receipt, and that was it. They didn't really ask for a picture of the broken item. Maybe because it was not that expensive. Well, anyway, let's see what it says. If a guest damages your place or belongings, you can visit the Resolution Center to submit a reimbursement request. You can track the process through payout. That's unchanged, I think. That was pretty straightforward when I did it too. Your request will first be sent to the guest. If the guest does not respond or pay within 24 hours, you'll be able to involve customer service to resolve the issue. You know what? This reimbursement process, I will give it to Airbnb because recently I had to guys that chase a guest down for their early check-in fee through Vrbo. And there really is not a good way. Like, the only thing I could do was to send a payment request, and they just didn't pay it. And there's no reminder to them. It doesn't escalate. It doesn't go to anything. Like, I had to go remember and be like, oh yeah, I don't think I ever received it. And then I reached out, like, it was 2-3 weeks later. So it's really good to know that Airbnb has a 24-hour mark in which if the guest doesn't respond or pay, it kind of escalates to customer service. We'll reimburse you for guest damages quickly, typically within 2 weeks. Superhosts also get priority routing and even faster reimbursement. Well, that's great. I'm a superhost. I'm glad to hear that. And then there's a $1 million host liability insurance, which protects you if a guest is hurt or their belongings are damaged or stolen while staying at your property. And then it also covers the cleaners and co-hosts. Lastly, there's a Brian Chesky video, which I've already watched. It's basically him taking pictures of his own house and listing on an Airbnb. In that video, he's showing renting a room in a house. I wonder if that's kind of the direction that they're steering people towards, like back towards their roots. I think there is a charm to it. I remember like a decade ago, we stayed at this room in Santa Monica and there were other guests there, and we come down to the kitchen and there are like other people cooking and you get to chat with them. We had to like take turns and wait our turn for the shower. It's not for everyone. If like you have kids, you have a family, maybe you don't want to be sharing a space if you already have a big group yourself. But as a couple, like that was kind of fun. Like you can see who else is traveling. And that was some of the charm of old school Airbnb, where you're literally in someone's house. Versus now, it's very much like a vacation rental. It's operated like purely a business. I'm not saying those weren't businesses and people didn't treat it as such, but it was more of an experience. I think it'd be cool to delineate that. I'm sure there are people who appreciate the current style of having like a professional property management company that manages 30 properties that are kind of similar in the same town. I get that. Like there's a known factor. It's almost like staying at a hotel, but a house. But that is not what drew me into Airbnb. It's the uniqueness, the story of the house, the story of the host, and immersing myself into a community that I find fascinating. Anyway, let's go to the top 10 takeaways from this recent winter release. So air cover for hosts, we've covered that. Even more air cover, up to 3 million. Guest identity verification for all. Reservation screening through their algorithm, and a simpler reimbursement process. Ground rules for guests, which leads them to some level of accountability through, education and suspension. Okay. Scrolling further down the list, review system improvements, so detailed review of guests. All right, and then retaliatory review protections like we talked about. And then number 8, they have fast pay. So it's a new payout method that delivers money within 30 minutes after Airbnb releases it, even on holidays and weekends. It's available in US for a fee of 1.5% with a cap of $15 per payout. Let's do some math. So anything above $1,000 of payout would be capped at 1.5%. That actually is to my benefit because most of our beach house bookings are more than that. But do I really need it faster? It might be beneficial for some businesses where you need the cash flow to be like super on time. Airbnb is already pretty fast. It usually takes maybe 3 days, 4 days for me. So I don't really see this as a problem, but good to know that it's there. And then number 9 and 10 have to do with Airbnb categories. So in early 2023, you'll be able to check which category your home is in. Check as in you select it, or check as in you get to see it. You'll also be able to add more details about your place's features so that your home can be put into the right category. Okay, I'm looking forward to that in 2023. I'm sure they got tons of feedback, like the entire Jacksonville Beach area is not showing up as beach house. Like even if I zoom my map there, it is showing me beach houses from other places. So I'm sure they've taken some feedback from that, and I'm glad they're revising. And then there's new categories to help guests discover more of your homes. New are listings added within the past 10 weeks. Trending are highly rated homes receiving more listing views than the previous week. That's interesting because you get more views when the dates are open. I'm sure they've factored this in. I'm curious how this will play out. Hanoks are Korean homes of natural material materials. Top of the world, 10,000 feet above sea level, often with stunning views. What about places that are already at high elevation, like most of Bolivia? Adapted, I think, means accessible, and I can imagine that having that category helps out guests a lot. Play, basketball courts, game rooms, trampolines, water slides, and more. So actually, our beach house would fit into that. I was actually gonna get like a little Pac-Man machine. I was debating it, but now this is like pushing me towards that. I don't know. Should I let this sway me? Private rooms is an update to the shared homes category. I'm definitely curious about whether they're trying to push or encourage more room in a house kind of listings, which I think is really cool. Let me know down below actually in the comments if you're thinking of listing your room on Airbnb. I know probably the main concern is, well, it's kind of weird to have a guest in your space, but I think it's such a financially risk-free way to get your feet wet and see if hosting is for you. And also, if you do end up hosting on Airbnb, feel free to use my link down below and we would both get a cash bonus. And actually, you'll be connected with me as your super host guide, and I would be available to answer any questions, preview your listing, and offer guidance if you would like, and that would all be for free. And so definitely consider that resource if you're about to list something on Airbnb. So review your listing settings to make sure you're selecting all the amenities, and then in early 2023 you'll be able to add more specifics about your home. Let's see if there's any updates we can make right now. So listing details. Let me do a quick scroll here. Arcade games. Not right now. I don't have a batting cage. I don't have a bowling alley or climbing wall. Laser tag. You know what? I've been wanting to get the life-size games, like a life-size Jenga or like a life-size chess. I think that's what that means. Mini golf, movie theater, skate ramp, theme room, like a Barbie house, like the one I talked about. I can't add a second TV. I feel like the TV box needs to be updated. It only shows one TV. Tubs. This is all the same. Let's scroll, scroll, scroll. Children's bikes. An indoor room with toys, books, and games for children. We have a lot of toys for children. I'm gonna say yes. I don't have an outdoor playground. It's good to check that you have your correct amenities picked out, because if someone happens to filter with those, you can make sure you're not missing out from search. Sun loungers. I've been wanting to get sun loungers. No for now, but let's come back to change that. Hockey rink. What kind of house has a hockey rink? What? Am I doing this wrong? All right, I think that's it. Well, so all in all, I'm pretty excited about these new changes. I'm so glad that a lot of these new updates are aimed towards host, helping hosts feel comfortable with hosting and ensuring a level of quality control with guests. So I am pretty excited about these. I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come for 2023. And I will be sure to update you guys when I find out more. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to this quick video. I'll see you next time.